Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity. I am Travis the Fair, and my little group of, I guess just homeless people now, it's no longer just homeless men, are heading to the Edelwan Bridge, because we're going to go into Defiance Bay. Finally. We just got our new newest companion. I'm going to keep forgetting her name forever, apparently. Sagani. She's a huntress from Nasak in the Deadfire Archipelago. So, yeah, she's joining on our little crew here. And I'm glad to have her. She balances out the party. And we're all going to go ahead and have ourselves a merry little time here in Defiance Bay. Watch yourself in our city.
Hail and well met.
What can I do for you? Can you tell me about Defiance Bay? Sorry, but I don't have time right now. But it sounds like that Dozens crackpot Rowan is stirring up trouble again. He jerks his head at the gate. He'll be all too happy to give you a rundown of the city, liberally flavored with Dozens propaganda, of course. I'm looking for the Temple of Wodica. He scratches his beard. Not sure why you'd want to go there, he shrugs. It's in the first fires if you really want to see it. You seem on edge. What's the matter? Thousands of them, truth be told. We've got refugees coming in from all parts under some misguided notion that things are actually better here. That's the legend somehow passed over us, so they show up with no prospects and little money and just end up making a worse mess of things. He looks down at you. No offense. Well, not really any taken. See you later.
Hey there.
Never far from the Queen Journal update. So it's in the First Fires district. So we're going to head into Copper Lane first. Wow, 15-minute walk from the gate to Copper Lane. Shouldn't be too surprised. Just in the map I was like, man, that should only be like a 3-minute walk, but I guess 15 minutes isn't
Defiance
bad.
Bay, the city at the heart of the Deerwoods Revolution, now seems on the brink of another. Refugees line the streets, homeless and hungry, displaced by White One's legacy, hoping for relief within the city walls, and finding none. Dissidents congregate to protest and to heckle, calling for an end to animancy and the ouster of their duke. The city's militiamen cast fearful looks as they patrol the streets, their hands trembling at the hilts of their weapons. The capital of a country that had not long ago incinerated a god now appears to be a spark away from sharing the deity's fate.
Well, that's not too promising, I wouldn't say. But, you know, we made it.
Hey there.
It took us a while, but we did finally make it here. Nice bustling
Defiance
city.
Bay. If ever there was a dry field in need of a cleansing flame, you have found it.
Are these all animancers? Oh, they're protesters, and this dude's leading them all, I'm guessing. Rowan. Oh, he told us to talk to this guy. The guard did. Rowan's arms are crossed and his mouth is set in a grim frown as he watches the gathered protesters. He looks ready for a fight. He sizes you up. New in town, eh? You've picked an interesting time to visit Defiance Bay. All these refugees fleeing to the frontier and finding the legacy is no better here. It's the Animancers, Magrins scorch 'em, and they nest up in the city like rats. You mark my words, though. Us Dozens are gonna put a stop to it. What are you doing out here exactly? He gestures to the crowd, which buzzes with angry chatter, trying to get folk to see reason. We're in the midst of a crisis, and instead of purging the nefarious forces from our city, the Duke is granting Animancers dangerous liberties. What do you know about Animancy? It's the study and manipulation of essence, which any sane person will tell you is the purview of the gods. The Idirans at least had the sense to outlaw it, which is the only good thing you can say about them. It's not like magic, chanting, or the soul readings those ciphers do. It's been around since the ancient Ingwithan times, which is why you'll see Animancers tinkering with old Ingwithan artifacts. Connor raises a fist to cough discreetly into it. Half-truths all, but he's an enthusiastic performer, I'll give him that. Rowan shakes his head. Trouble is, the Animancers got an idea that what half those artifacts actually do, not that they'll actually admit it. Our empathetic friend is correct about one thing, at least. Tell me about the Dozens. He taps his chest. We're an organization of interested citizens who want to free Defiance Bay from the dangerous influence of animancers and the tyranny of the aristocrats who support them. We also consider ourselves a militia of sorts, seeing as the Crucible Knights are little more than a flock of preening nobles in training these days. Edir, just like a militia, the dozens, except for the training and the discipline and the code of honor. Rowan, his eyes gleam, and we're always looking to expand. The more people see things our way, the better for the state of the country. You'll have little interest hearing more. Stop by Admeth's Den sometime. The expedition hall. Lot of free thinkers in there. Can set straight all the nonsense and the nobles the animancers want you to believe. Might even be some paid work there for motivated types. Well, I'd like to know more about Defiance Bay, actually. This is the capital of the Free Palatine of the Deerwood. We started out as the capital of an Ediran colony, but we booted the Flaccid Scepter from these lands 150 years ago. These days, we're a major port receiving trade and visitors from all over the world, but some of us anyways, strive to hold on to the pioneering spirit that earned us our freedom a century and a half ago. The city is divided into 5 districts: Copper Lane, Five Fires, Andra's Gift, Brackenbury, and Heritage Hill. Well, tell me about Copper Lane. This here's Copper Lane. He taps in a scuffed boot on the cobblestones. It's primarily a market district, but you've also got the expedition hall directly north of here, where you can join treks into the wilds. There's also my fellow dozens martyrs, and I tend to meet up with other concerned citizens. He points to a long domed building west and north of your position. And that's the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. Eerie place, you ask me, but they've got the biggest library in the Deerwood. Kana laughs. Eerie indeed. It might be less so if more kith stepped inside. Perhaps we ought to visit Travis Fair and see just what mysteries are revealed. Well, tell me about Brackenbury. A noise of disgust rattles in his throat. The nobility that didn't sail back to Edir stayed there. Most of the families there trace their lineage back to the old imperial times. Other than a lot of has-been nobility, you've got Hadrit House, where Lady Webb and her spies operate, and Brackenbury Sanitarium, the main cesspit of animancy in the city. He spits on the cobblestones. Well, tell me about the first fires. That's where the revolution started, hence the name. These days it's overrun with politicians and panderers, but we'll take it back someday. That's where you'll find the Ducal Palace, the Valian Embassy, and Crucible Keep. He shakes his head. The Crucible Knights were the original freedom fighters in Defiance Bay, but now they're just strutting peacocks with their eyes on fancy titles and their heads up their asses. There's an old temple of Wodica there too. We keep it real nice for her. He winks. And what about Andra's Gift? Got the name because it was a wetlands that was drained back in the imperial days. Now it's a seedy district populated by sailors, common folk, and more than a few thugs, but it's a fun place too, if you know where to look. He winks and elbows you. Look for a place called the Salty Mast when you're there. Other than that, it's mostly warehouses and abandoned homes. And what about Heritage Hill? He shivers. It used to be one of the more prestigious districts in the city. Heroes of the Revolution claim plots up there next to the ancient Engwithan Tower in the city cemetery. Had the best views in Defiance Bay. Attracts richer types these days. A lot of animancy patrons. He spits. He glances at the crowd and lowers his voice. You wouldn't have heard, but something happened over there a couple of months ago. The authorities sealed it off and they're keeping their mouths shut, but mark my words, animancy's to blame. Well, let's talk about something else. And when I say that, I meant we're going to talk about me leaving. Bye.
Hey there.
Man. So it looks like those guys have a bit of a problem with animancy. I don't really have much to go off of. I know that the dwarf woman who was hanged, I don't know why I said hunged. The dwarf woman who was hanged in that tree, she was an animancer, and she actually helped me, so she seemed like a decent enough person. This is a nice little market. We got like a little amphitheater. Who are these people? Just commoners. Laura. Oh, hey, it's Peregrine. Hello again, the Orlon woman says in a familiar tone. Thanks for visiting my store. I'm still trying to recover from losing that cargo, she says with a huff. My inventory isn't what it used to be, but hopefully I've got something you like. Well, let's see. Ah, traps and stuff. I'm wondering, so traps, those would be for anyone with mechanics, I believe. Let's see here. I can sell you a fine hatchet. Intellect. I think I will give that to him. Don't know where I got that, but not complaining. Got some lion's hide. Ripple sponge. Some chew. I don't know if I'm going to use these scrolls. Store light endurance might be useful. Probably don't need that. You know what? Actually, I'm going to let him keep them because if I remember it, I will try to use them. Cause caster appear visually displaced. Gonna go ahead and sell that. Let's go ahead and trade that over to her. I know that now we can start the Bright Hollow restoration. We'll have a bit left over, so I'm not afraid to do this here. Let's see. Hild. That sounds familiar. Hildy. Ingrid. Looks like he might be a weapon seller.
Hail, traveler.
Ingrid stands behind a stall, polishing a broadsword. The patterned flesh around his eyes is crinkled with age, and the muscles in his arms are knotty and lean, but he holds the weapon with ease. He nods at you. Come to take a look. You won't find a finer collection of armor and weaponry in Defiance Bay, outside of Sonild's, of course. He flashes a crooked grin. Well, let's see what you have for sale. So yes, he is a weapons merchant. He sells some guns. Does he sell some nice bows? I want to be selfish and get myself a nice bow. Holy crap, I can't afford that. What makes this so good? It's same speed as mine. More piercing damage. Same amount of accuracy and damage. Damage restored as endurance. That's it. And attacks can stun on crits. Okay. That would be a pretty good bow. Unfortunately, I can't even come close to affording it right now, so we're just going to have to carry on. So we got Pernisk's house, Den Expedition Hall, Dormitory, Hall of Mysteries, Mdala's house. Alright, so let's see where we want to go first. So we gotta go to the First Fires district for the main quest. Travel to the cliffs we saw in the vision. Explore the endless paths. Same thing. Walk with Durance. Raedric's Hold, and then I suggest there might be Saints' War in an archive in the Ducal Palace. We can do that. Is that in this district? Where was the Ducal Palace? Where did he say? Heritage Hill, I believe it was. I can't remember. But let's actually go ahead and go to... Let's go to the First Fires. I know we have to go there. So might as well head that way while we can. Hang on, Edir wants to talk to us.
The dozens.
He shakes his head with...
Sure you won't find one among them who stood within 100 miles of that bridge when the Godhammer went off. Too bad, too. Then there'd be less of them.
Why do they call themselves the Dozens? Was 12 Deerwoodens stood outside Halagot Citadel waiting for Waidwin to cross the bridge there. They had to hold him there long enough to get the Godhammer to detonate, so that's what they did. The Godhammer? That's what they called the bomb they blew up Waidwin. That's what they called the bomb they blew up Waidwin with. Don't know much about it other than that. Anything kills a living god, guess you gotta name it. What do you have against the dozens? Nothing serious. Nothing I don't have against a lot of folk anyway. The dozens, they like to take things into their own hands. Gets ugly sometimes. We don't have 'em in Gilded Vale, but they'd be right at home there. They picked that name so they could do what they wanted and feel like it was right. Got nothing to do with honor or sacrifice. They like to invoice Magrin too, when they especially want to feel right. Somehow I don't think she'd be too impressed with that lot. I'm sure she'd like to set 'em on fire any time they use her name, but the gods probably got rules against that kind of thing. Yeah, people really do like to hide behind symbols so they can't be questioned. The Duke's a reasonable man. Maybe while they're in Defiance Bay, we can get him to force people to call themselves what they are. Don't imagine they'd have as many members if they called themselves the loudmouth sheep fuckers. That's a good point. Oh, wait. Let's get everyone going here.
Sure.
Just a car. And let's head to the first fires. So while we're here, I can't remember exactly what I have to do while we're here. So let's get a... let's figure out. Gotta go to the Temple of Woedica. Members of the Laden Key tend to worship Woedica. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and here's the Ducal Palace. You know what? While we're here, let's actually do this for Edir and see if we can search the archives for him. He wanted to...
Politics, infighting, greed, and a shrine to Magrin as well. Her clergy belongs there.
Yeah, I'm sure that he he fits well into a crowd here. Alright, let's see. 4 fragments of a scattered faith. Edir believes he may be able to find more about the circumstances of his brother's death in Defiance Bay. Okay, so that's what we're looking for here in the archives. Figure out what exactly happened to Edir's brother. Sidley.
Good day to you.
The young woman wears a simple but well-tailored uniform. She watches the comings and goings around her with quiet attention. Any news to share, or are here to see the Ducal Palace? What's the Ducal Palace? It's the seat of government here in Defiance Bay. This is where Duke Admeth and Hadrit declared freedom from the Adiran rule some 150 years ago. She lowers her voice and grins. It's also a hotbed of regional politics. Trust me, the gossip here beats what you'll find in any tavern or brothel in the city. Dearwood and politics. Changes too quickly to be worth keeping up with. Better to strike up conversation in the taverns than try to loiter inconspicuously in the palace corridors. Looking for news? Well, who are you? I'm a page here at the palace. I deliver messages and run errands for the Duke and his advisors. The pay's not great, but I can't think of a better introduction to politics. Well, what goes on in here? She laughs. Where to start? We've got meetings, public hearings, and ceremonies, and that's just the stuff that happens out in the open. She leans a little closer. This is where the Duke and his key advisors work, so there's always someone bartering for a favor. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to talk about that side of things. But if you want the official version, she clears her throat and gestures counterclockwise around the palace. We have a shrine devoted to Magrin, official records, and chambers for public hearing and council meetings. Tell me about this shrine of Magrin. It's a symbol of Magrin's protection of the Defiance Bay. She represented the revolutionary spirit of the Deerwood ever since the independence, and her involvement in creating Godhammer Bomb only affirmed her importance to us. She scratches her neck. That's also where the first of the sacred fires burn, but Figra the Tranquil Ardent has had trouble keeping them lit. And what kind of records are stored here? Mostly dull official stuff, census counts, tax records, militia registers. Now I keep my distance. I got curious one day and got drafted into reshelving half the records. She yawns. Worst day of my life. Is there a hearing going on right now? Sure is. Duke of Avar's been meeting with some of the city leaders for weeks now, trying to figure out how to address the legacy. The whole business is terribly secret, though. I tried to sit in the gallery during my lunch break one day and got turned away, she sniffs. But a lot of the talk concerns animancy, so there's good reason they're keeping the meeting behind closed doors. What did you mean by the legacy? Waydwin's legacy. That's what a lot of people call the Rash of Hollowborn. The theory goes that it's punishment for meddling in animancy. And why is the animancy so controversial? She laughs. Where to begin? Traditionalists think it's a crime against the gods. There's no question that poking around in the soul is risky, but the more progressive elements believe it's our only shot at restoring healthy births. And it doesn't help matters that animancy research often involves old Engwithan relics that were illegally looted from the ruins in Ar Glomfoth. She makes a quick twitching motion with her index and middle finger. And, I already know this, but I'll ask anyway. What are Hollowborn? She raises an eyebrow. You really are fresh from the road. Hollowborn are children born without souls. They often don't live very long, and those that do have generally received some kind of treatment from the animancers. So what do you think about animancy? Me? I think the real danger of animancy is confusing a real scholar with an expensive fake. We get a new case here every day, some poor couple in the Gift or Copper Lane who spent every copper they had on a miracle cure for their unborn child. It never works. She shakes her head, breaks your heart, but there's usually nothing we can do for him. I see. Anyway, the legacy is what politicians have all been whispering about lately. I'd like to ask you about something else, if that's okay. Of course, I've always got my ear to the ground. And tell me about the current Duke. That would be Avar Wolfgren. Don't let the title fool you, though. Our Dukes have been elected since independence. Some find Duke Avar rather coarse. He's a frontier nobleman. Personally, I think a rough and tumble type is just what Defiance Bay needs. Well, that's all good information. Thank you.
Yeah?
All right. Let's see what we got. Shrine of Magrin, Hall of Records. That's where we want to go. And here we go. Record Keeper.
How do you do?
A taciturn man with graying hair pores over the tome he has just withdrawn from one of the shelves. He glances up at you with baggy eyes. Yes, is there something I can pull for you? I'm looking for militia records from the time of the Saints' War, trying to find out what happened to someone. The man clears his throat. We've a number of inquiries about such information. I'm afraid we've had to bar access to the public. Seems there are still quite a number of folk in Deerwood who bear ill will toward Raid Sarens. It would be irresponsible to surrender their names to just anyone. Many came to settle here as refugees. Perhaps if you were more established in Defiance Bay, things would be different, but I have no reason to suspect you would be any different from the others. There's something peculiar about the record keeper's inflection. The differences are subtle, but it does not sound like any native Deerwooden you've heard. Well, we've come a long way. I just need to find out about my brother. I don't even know what side he fought for. You must understand, I've heard many such stories. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do for you. All right, well, come back later.
Yeah?
The records keeper was unwilling to show us records from Saints' War, citing concerns about vengeful Deerwooden hunting down Raid Saren refugees. He said things might be different were my reputation in the city stronger. All right, so I'm guessing I just have to go around, do some questing, and kind of build up my reputation here. For now, what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a break. Can't really remember when I started this. It might be a shorter video, but that's okay. When we next come back, we'll kind of travel around here a little more. We might jump into this Shrine of Magrin, take a look around here. Otherwise, we'll head back out into the First Fires and do a couple of our side quests. We still have some things we can do. We even have the main quest we can follow up on. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. And if you are enjoying it, just go ahead and let me know in any number of ways, whether it's just commenting, tell me what you think, or just liking, subscribing, or just continuing to watch the series. That would be awesome too. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.